free to balance their presentations either by just plain talking or with PowerPoint presentation. And there's no particular emphasis that all should be PowerPoint presentations only. So, while on behalf of you, I felicitate the department for its achievements in its 50th year, and we, as ICA India chapter, would like to support many such activities in the future. I am looking forward in such activities at the ICA India chapter, which presently is working out of the Secretariat in Manipal, supported by organizational agents of the Indian Institute of Information Technology in Delhi. Over to you, Nishur, and welcome, and a very good morning to you, or good night to you, because your time difference is like that. Proceed, you're on.
Yeah, thank you again very much for organizing this event. Are you able to hear me?
Okay, fine. Sorry, yeah.
No, no, it's okay. You need to mute. Yeah, that's good. Got it. Perfect. Well, thank you again for that introduction and for organizing this session. And congratulations on the 50th anniversary to Behrampur. I was talking earlier today with some of my friends, and I was pleasantly surprised that I actually have family members who graduated from that university, not in the communication program, but in the medical school and so on. And I grew up. In a small, I was born in a very small town called Chakradharpur, which was at the time in Bihar, now in Jharkhand. So it was not very far from where you folks are located there. And I'm sorry that I'm not able to be there in person, especially because I was in India until about 3 days ago. I gave talks in Lahore, Pakistan, at an ICA regional conference, and then I was giving a talk at in Mumbai at the Indian Institute of Management, and another one at the Indian Institute of Management in Ahmedabad. And unfortunately, I had to come back here and was not able to join you all in person there. As BP mentioned, I'm going to use my balance of 4 or 5 minutes here, mostly to see if I can give you a little bit more context about how ICA is seeing its role in facilitating the topics that we're discussing here, media at the crossroads, but also more generally education, different models of education in mass communication and journalism. I should mention also that my goal in this presentation up front is to look at what we are trying to do here as a two-way dialogue. I am not of the opinion that we in ICA currently have some knowledge that needs to be poured into or disseminated into the context in India. I think it's a dialogue that goes in both directions. I think ICA is interested in being educated about what is happening in India and in different contexts as much as it goes in the other direction. And I'm especially thrilled that we're also being joined by AMIC. When I was an undergraduate getting my degree in electrical engineering at IIT Madras, and I first got interested in mass communication, I went to work with the Space Application Center in Ahmedabad, and that was where I was first introduced to AMIC. And I remember reading the magazine called Media Asia, and I believe that their address at the time, if for some reason I still remember, was 30 Newton Road in Singapore. That was where the AMIC was headquartered, at least at the time. But you can see that it made a strong impression on me that even now I still remember those details. And I'm talking about back in this was in 1981. So it's quite a long time ago. Almost 81 is when I did that. Let me see if I can get these slides to show. Let me see. Are you able to see some slides there? Yes, you are. Great. Okay. So let me see how this will work. And so, as BP mentioned, I've been very involved. I was the president of the International Communication Association a couple of years ago, and now I'm a past president, obviously, and I'm still serving on the executive committee. But one of the things that I was most proud of doing during my role as president of the International Communication Association was to launch some more efforts to continue with our goal of trying to. How do I get this slide to move now? I'm trying to see. Okay, here we go. Okay, I think looks like it's going to work. So the I in ICA stands for International Communication Association, and my predecessors as presidents of ICA have spent a lot of time trying to focus on that I. Just to give you some context, ICA began in 1950, and at the time it was simply called the National Society for the Study of Communication. Almost 20 years later, in 1969, when it had 150 members from 28 countries, they changed the name to International Communication Association. 4 years later, in 1973, was the first time that we hosted our annual conference of the International Communication Association outside the United States. But we didn't go very far. We just went up to Canada, to Montreal. And then in 1977, ICA hosted its first annual conference outside North America, and we went to Berlin, which at the time was part of West Germany. Since then, we've been hosting our annual conference outside the United States on 18 occasions. This year it was held in Australia, in the Gold Coast. And then in the coming couple of years, it's going to be in Cape Town. And the first time it is going to Africa. And we've done a lot of these. So in one step about bringing international itself internationally. In addition, we have also hosted 24 regional conferences, starting with the first one in 2006 in Lima. So a regional conference is one that is an ICA conference, but it's held in another part of the world, and it is organized by local individuals there, and often focusing on local issues. I was just at the most recent one, the 25th regional conferences was held in Lahore, Pakistan. The first time it was held in Pakistan. I was very pleased to be there. As you can see, it was on December 5th and 6th, just over a week ago. And the focus of that conference was on maximizing the scope of climate communication. So it was focusing again on strategies, responsibilities, outcomes, specifically for the global south. In addition to these regional conferences, we also have what are called as affiliate conferences, where we try to nurture education and research in other places and let other people organize a conference, but we affiliate with them. Starting during the COVID crisis, we also started creating regional hubs. What does this mean? It means that the main conference of ICA is held in one of these cities. But at the same time, we wanted to have regional hubs which were meeting concurrently, time zone permitting, but certainly on the same days in different parts of the world, especially in the global south. And the goal was to build community so that people who, for whatever reason, were not able to travel to the main location of the conference could at least come together and have exchanges and build networks and discuss ideas with people in their own community, and also be able to connect with the ICA location through hybrid sessions so that they could present things to ICA, the main location, and the main location could present things back again to them. So this idea of having a conference that was a hybrid conference with regional hubs all over the place was something that started during the pandemic, and we have continued to do that now. And the goal is again to help. If everyone can't come to the ICA conference, ICA can come to you. And these regional hubs have been very successful. They help bolster engagement globally with ICA. They provide an opportunity for regional hub attendees to build community with one another, and they facilitate the development of regional communication, research, and education networks, as well as infrastructure. So in 2022, when I was the president-elect of ICA, I was the conference program planner. The main conference was held, as you can see, in Paris, in France. It was the first time we were coming back in person after the pandemic, And as you can see, there were a lot of different regional hubs all over the world, including in Manipal in India. That continued in 2023 when the main conference was in Toronto. We also had a lot of other regional hubs in other places, again, Manipal, India being one of them. In 2024, the conference was in Gold Coast in Australia. Again, we had hubs in other parts of the world. And once again, we had one of our hubs was in Manipal. So India has been a regional hub ever since we began this process. And that's one of the reasons why we took note of the fact that there was a real interest in leadership provided by folks like BP Sanjay, Padma Rani, and others, Usha Raman in Hyderabad. These are all thought leaders from India who were very interested in seeing how we could continue to engage with ICA. The final step was we decided why only end up with regional hubs? Regional hubs are only there when you are actually having the conference. And so we decided to take that regional conferences committee and create a larger committee called REACH, Regional Endeavors, Affiliate Conferences, and Hubs Committee. And it's always chaired by a former president of ICA. Currently, the chair is Mary Beth Oliver, who was former ICA president. And now when you look at it, today ICA has more than 8,000 members in 89 countries. But there is still a problem. We are making progress with the internationalization, but we still have far less proportional representation of ICA membership from various constituencies, from the global south, for example. Most of our membership still comes from North America and from Western Europe and Australia. So what we decided to do was that we wanted to recognize that our journals do not equitably reflect constituents' need for further decentering of communication scholarship. Despite our membership fees being reduced in the last few years, our membership continues to be concentrated in US and Europe. And so we wanted to take the next step in internationalization, and that's what BP was talking about. And that is what we call as regional chapters. So the goal of a regional chapter is you have a permanent entity located in your region, in this case, for example, ICA India. You have your own membership, you bring people together, you organize events exactly like the one we are doing right now. And the goal is to make empower individuals in a particular region to feel that they belong to something important, but that they also have intellectual ownership on focusing on topics that are relevant to them. Educational practices, sharing best practices, organizing research events, organizing awareness events like the one we're doing right now. And the overall goal was that it was to help make sure that ICA was not being centered only in the United States or only in Europe, but was truly a grassroots effort that had many, many locations that were each of their own entity and had a great deal of autonomy. And so these ICA chapters have hosted regional hubs. They have had distinguished speaker series, in-person or virtual presentations by relevant scholars, including but not restricted to ICA members, convene workshops on special topics such as theories, methodologies, grant proposal. This event is an example of exactly what that was. It's like a workshop that we're doing within the context of the Berhampur 50th anniversary celebrations. And so during my term as president, the executive committee approved creating 6 pilot ICA chapters. And what you see there are the chapters in Indonesia, in China, in Kenya, in Nigeria, in France, and the last but not the least was the chapter that we inaugurated in India in April of this year. And this is one of the reasons why we are in assembling here is to build that community. And so my main goal in talking about these is to see how, as of 2024, we have these ICA chapters. You'll recognize the logo of ICA India as being part of this event that we are going through right now. And all I would want to do is encourage all of you to get involved with it, work with the leadership that we have. We have a very strong leadership team with BP Sanjay being the current president of the ICA chapter, ICA India chapter. And I would encourage us to take an opportunity to see how and I say we meaning as a person who grew up in India, that we in India can not only build community. We like to say that in many cases, BP mentioned that we have an enormous number of master's and undergraduate programs and educational degree programs in communication and journalism. I fear that this, the overall communication presence in India is less than the sum of its parts. There's incredible amount of good scholarship, incredible amount of talent, relevance, unique issues that are relevant only, that are more relevant in India because of the nature of society, the role that digital technologies are playing in India. And yet, I fear that without having an opportunity to come together and to be able to build community, that the state of communication, education, and scholarship in India will continue to remain less than the sum of its parts. And I hope that events like this will give us an opportunity to make it what it should be, more than the sum of its parts. So I will stop sharing my screen there and uh, pass things back again to VP Sanjay, and I look forward to listening to the remaining presentations, and I will stay on for the duration so that I can learn from each of you. Because as I said, that's my goal here, is to be able to get educated and to bring back to some of the Western communities the wonderful ideas and insights that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishi. I will not try to immediately summarize. We'll take it up later. I did, plan for a pan South Asian perspective, and I could identify a very eminent person in my old colleague and friend, Professor Sandeep Mupadi, currently at University of Hartford in USA, but a distinguished Fulbright visiting fellow at the University of Hyderabad currently. And I requested him to combine the perspective wherein, as a Secretary General, former Secretary General of AMIC, he did have an indication of the productivity and the kind of institutional developments in South Asia. And more so, he has been very active in looking at very perceptively the growth and trajectory of journalism and mass communication education. So, Sandeep, can I request you to come in, and you are free to use a combination of your talking and PPT as you wish. Thank you, Sandeep, and welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you for having me. Uh, and thank you, Nosher, for thinking of AMIC. I'm not here to represent AMIC, but to share my experiences. And in terms of, I'm trying to see if I can pull up my presentation. Okay, last meet. Okay, we can forget about the presentation for now. But basically, what you said, a lot of it resonates with me in terms of. Okay, so in terms of what is needed in the region, and I had about 4 slides because there are only 5 minutes to or whatever. So I'll probably share the slides later. But I'll talk briefly about what I see as the challenges in the region in terms of the current kind of digitization that we are experiencing in terms of media being at the crossroads. And I was looking at the changing nature in terms of media and communication in the region, in terms of fragmentation and consumption patterns, and this whole shift from a broadcasting kind of thing to not even narrowcasting as much as the user generated content that is changing the entire kind of field. And like if you look at the rise of YouTube and other kinds of social media and other stuff, how much we need to think as professionals about how much journalism itself is changing, right? It's no longer top down kind of the push model of content, rather, it's the pull model of content. And everywhere I go in India, and I was recently in Sri Lanka and Singapore, uh, all that I see is people staring at screens, right? Not even one screen, sometimes it's two screens. They're looking at TV, but they're also on there. So all the second screen experience and everything, right? So as I keep saying, like I see more or less the traditional newspaper as being dead, the news being alive, but still, more importantly, the content is king. Right? So journalism has to be reshaped around that, and in that sense, I see the Asian region as being far ahead of what's happening in the US in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of material here for someone to theorize and research and other kinds of stuff, right? So in that sense, media is still a critical public space in terms of advocacy and change, but there's a lot of scope for digital and media literacy. Um, and with AI and big data coming in, right, it is becoming more complex in terms of the way it's going to change things, but also the biases and ethics that it brings in, the issues with regulation and all that kind of stuff. So what I had was more or less six different things that I thought I'd talk about. One was the need for, and you alluded to this, Noshir, which is building capacity in the region in terms of infrastructure, in terms of resources, in terms of pedagogical training, in terms of basically building a database of institutions and professionals in each country. That is something that I wanted to do when I was at AMIC, because the next step would have been to sort of put in place some kind of an accreditation system where you would create a benchmark of quality kind of thing that people could refer to. But more importantly, I think we are missing the boat when we don't address the vernacular markets in the area. Like the focus has been so much on English that we miss out on the rich kind of heritage that different languages have. And in India also, it's true of a lot of other countries too, but in India itself, you see so many languages with their own regional markets for newspapers and journalism. And I think we can do a better job with addressing those markets, right? And so the Sanjay was referring to about 400, 1,400 institutions offering courses. And like it's a mixed bag of offerings where we don't have some kind of a benchmark that says these are good programs, these are not, these are the programs that we really should aspire to emulate. Everyone's offering whatever they do, and students have uh, no idea about those kinds of metrics. So I think in terms of credibility, the rigor and the kind of quality for offering good programs, and also building bridges with the industry, right? That is something when I talk to the industry, it's like a lot of them say graduates come to us and we need to make them unlearn everything they learned in class, right? So we are missing the boat where we think, oh, we are pushing out very idealistic journalists and all that. When they go to the industry, they find they are in the wrong place. So that was the other thing. Then it was about the entire culture of academia in the region. I met a lot of faculty, especially young faculty who are very interested, who are very committed, who want to sort of do their best, but they run into a lot of barriers, right? I mean, in terms of administrative support, in terms of like in the US, we get a lot of support for publishing, for scholarship, or we get a lot of access to resources. The Indian government is doing something like having one subscription for the nation and other kinds of things. There are some issues with that, but at least it's a step in the right direction. But what will help is if a junior faculty member wants to go to a conference or publish, to have the kind of space to be able to do that research and the support from the administration, like not be burdened with 101 different things to do and still do their work. But also the recognition that publishing in journals is not as easy as we make it out to be, right? And most of them, like the publish and perish kind of mentality that is put on faculty without giving them the training, without giving them the pathways to how they get there, is sort of pushing them to pay and publish. And that I think is a step in the wrong direction. So ICA, I mean, it's good the ICA regional hub and all are sort of getting to that place. But you mentioned Media Asia. Like one of the things I did when I was at AMIC was to sort of do special issues of countries, right, where people in that country would talk about media in the region. So maybe the ICA regional hub can sort of encourage those kinds of things where people in that country would get an opportunity to talk about. But overall, that culture, right, in terms of scholarship, in terms of support, in terms of having regional events like this that give the confidence to share with colleagues. And the last thing before I run out of time is the context, right? All these regions, all these countries have a rich heritage. They have rich philosophies, they have rich literature. And as communication faculty or scholars, I think we have a lot of material there that we can tap into and talk about communication. I see some people doing it now, but there's a lot more that can be done in terms of tapping into our own backgrounds, our own contexts, our own, and sort of like we sort of take the good from the West in terms of the tools, in terms of the theories, but apply it to the materials and sort of develop our own kind of thing. So I'll stop there, but we can talk more uh, once we hear the others.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep, for that perspective. And you also raised important concerns about the context uh, and also the need for, comparable and compatible standards amidst the mushrooming of journalism and mass communication institutions in India. Just for the purpose of other panelists, yes, India did make an attempt in the past of what we call as a model curriculum for journalism and mass communication education, which was one of the important documents that also laid down, apart from the choice of courses, it also laid down certain conditions of what is the minimum infrastructure and faculty resources that a department should have in running these programs. Recently, we have also developed at the national level learning and program based outcomes approach, which is part of the national education policy. Some articulations have been made as to what could be the output and what could be the measurability of the quality of the graduates that we are putting out. While I would request other panelists also to think about some of these issues, and Nushi has already flagged some of the larger issues. So, without much ado, I would like to move on to call upon uh, Dr. Smith, uh, who is an associate professor at Chilkong University in Bangkok, Thailand. He specializes in public relations, communication, digital media, health communication, etc. And is a vice president of Impulse Bangkok, a voluntary group sponsored by the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, promoting awareness in that area. And he's also the president of the Asian Congress for Media and Communication. Uh, he fosters academic and professional collaboration across Asia, which indeed is a welcome and a highly relevant, form of association that ICA India chapter, for example, would like to work with you in organizing joint events, etc. And he has hands-on experience, and which is very important. And over to you, Smith, for your remarks, perspective, or comments. Thank you, Smith, for joining us.
Thank you very much. You know, every time I open my phone these days, it's amazed by I really amazed by how differently we consume media compared to just a few years ago. And I think everyone also share the same experience. Again, good morning, everyone, and I'm truly excited to be here with you today at this very crucial discussion about media at Crossroads. And before I really get started, as the president of the Asian Congress for Media and Communication, or ACMC, I am particularly grateful to ICA Professor Notchild Contractor for including me in this important session with the NMEC Distinguished Scholar, Professor Sandeep Makpidi. And of course, I want to express my sincere thanks to Berhampur University and the ICA India chapter to bring us together here. And also, it is incredible to also see many brilliant minds in one virtual room like this. I'm so excited, and we are all focused on shaping the future of media, and particularly in this challenging region. Next slide, please. Okay. Anyone have this? I think there's someone already have my slide. Can you share my slide, please? Okay, very nice. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, this is on the slide two. Slide number two, please. Thank you. That's it. Thank you very much. And okay, right. And as the title of this session said, we are standing at this crossroads intersection of course, opportunity and challenge. And sometimes I think of it like being in busy Bangkok intersection. There are all these different paths we could take, and each path has got its own set of possibilities and pitfall. Just the other day, I was showing my students how AI can help with their research, and their eyes lit up with possibility, and they are so excited about it. But then, minutes later, we were discussing how to spot fake information or so-called fake news on their social media feeds. It's the constant balance we are trying to strike. It's just like when you go into a supermarket and you see real meat and a fake meat selling on the same shelf, and it's very challenging for a person who not has kind of enough knowledge or experience to distinguish between these two things. So this is quite challenge. Okay, next slide, please. Slide number three. Okay, let me share something about the statistic that blow my mind every time I think about it. 70% of people in Southeast Asia are on social media every single day. Just think about that in that moment. Um, that is not just a statistic, but it's a complete revolution in how we connect, learn, and share information. And TikTok, it's very fascinating. When I first downloaded it, I thought it was just for dance videos. And now you can see that our students are getting their news from TikTok. Actually, just last week, one of them, my students, fact checked me in class using TikTok video from someone that they respect. And you can see that now times really change. Next slide, please. Now let me tell you something exciting we are doing at Chulalongkorn University. We have launched this initiative called Chula Genie. And no, it's not about making wishes come true, though sometimes it feels like it. It's our way of bringing AI into education. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night as well while we are creating these amazing tools. Because some people in Thailand, quite a large amount, number, 1.5 million people in Thailand still can't access even basic technology for learning. It's like we are building this fantastic highway for education for many people, but not everyone has a vehicle to ride on that highway. And that is concerning me. Next slide, please. And talking about the inclusive media in our country, we have made a very good progress, as you can maybe heard of our news. But it's, I think, actually started from very inclusive media uh, about more than 10 years ago. And recently, if you have watched Thai media over the past few years, you probably noticed something changing. The very, very forefront themes like Love of Siam aren't just entertaining anymore. It's the starting point of the story of this kind of movement. Not only film like Love of Siam, but also other films and TV series as well. They are starting conversations about identity and acceptance that would have been unthinkable decades ago. I remember when one of my students who identified as LGBTIQ plus came to me after watching those films. They said, um, finally, I can see myself on screen. And that's the power of inclusive media in Thailand. And I think if it happened in other places, it will have got the same effect as well. It's not just about entertaining anymore, the thing. It's about acknowledgement and validation. Okay, next slide, please. Now let's tackle something that I'm sure keeps all of us in this room also up at night, which is misinformation. You know, those families, WhatsApp, online groups that share every possible conspiracy theory, all fake and real news mixed together. I believe that every family have got that group as well. And now I think we also have to think about the broader um, scale. like entire region. How can we help our communities to free of that kind of misinformation, fake news, and chaos? In Southeast Asia, we have got some kind of guideline and or agreements in our ASEAN countries to help our communities to be kind of free of the fake news. And in Asia and in Thailand in particular, we have got the anti-fake news center. And we also have got the collaboration between governments, academia, and media to collaborate in helping these kind of fact-checking superhero centers to do things better, because the real solutions lies in working together rather than let the platforms tell things alone. Right. Okay, next slide, please. Let me share something exciting about where are we heading. In Thailand, we are becoming a hub for data-driven information. Microsoft just invested in regional data centers here, and it's like watching a sci-fi movie come to life in our countries. We are very, very advanced in terms of, at the moment, using the AI. And at Chulalongkorn University, we claim ourselves as the AI university. And next, apart from AI, we are also exploring AR and VR storytelling as well. Many of my advisees, they research on VR in the best aspect of how to let the other learners from other parts of Thailand know about Chulalongkorn University using AR, and how to make the kind of adventurous tasks to be learned by uh, kind of female gender who are feel that the task is not so for female. So this is very, very advanced one. Our ambitious aim. Next slide, please. Now, but you know, what really gives me hope is that about all these things, it's not just about fancy technology alone. It's how we all together working to get this complexity being for all people in our communities. And I think whether it is universities sharing resources, countries collaborating on digital literacy, or media organization amplifying diverse voices, with all of this, I believe that we are going truly moving things forward as one. Next slide, please. As we look ahead, we need to focus on three things. First, we need to balance tradition with innovation. And second, we must build truly inclusive media practices, not just token representation, but authentic stories that reflect our diverse communities. And finally, we need to embrace collaboration as our path forward. And before I wrap up, I want to share one last thought. You know how they say it takes a village to raise a child? Well, now it takes an entire region to transform media in a more inclusive way. And looking around in this virtual room, I am confident we have exactly the right village for our future generation. Thank you all for being here today. And I love to continue this conversation. And you can reach me through email, LinkedIn, and yes, I will do respond to my message. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Smith, for that appropriate intervention and observation. Uh, in your talk, I also noticed the comment that you made about the digital divide and access to basic learning, which exists still in Thailand. Some of the issues that we also face here. Uh, Next, I would like to call upon Professor Priyadarshi Tripathi. It is personally very gratifying to know that Professor Tripathi is an alumnus of Berhampur University, did his bachelor's in 1995 and MAMC in 1996. He's, he's into research, accumulated 25 years of experience in technology, industry, and service leadership. When I was planning to brief colleagues about this session, he indicated that he would like to take the industry response perspective, which is appreciated. And also, he has specifically highlighted the fact for him the definition of media is fluid. That is a very important kind of observation on which perhaps he would like to make his presentation. Welcome to Berhampur, and over to you, Professor Priyadarshi Tripathi. Thank you very
Thank you.
much for joining us.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you, everyone. I am probably the least educated and experienced person in this panel, and I'm not a professor or I'm not an academician for sure. I wish I had done my PhD, but I still continue to, carry forward that aspiration. Someday it might happen. Having said that, I also, I'm happy as well as nervous. Happy because I feel that I have lived 60% of my life as a student of the department celebrated 50 years, and I finished my masters in 1996, around 28 years ago. So that's 60% of the department's journey. um, Nervous because I feel like kindergarten kid carrying his sketchbook to a renowned painter like MF Hussain and trying to show. And I have lots of paintings. I then once I start watching the master artisan's craft, and I feel very nervous. What is it that I should show? Since we had a fast interaction on WhatsApp, sir, I tried to collect some data or some viewpoints, data numbers about the education system, the number of universities, the kind of programs offered in various countries, including Australia, from where I am, are very much available in the public domain. And where I'm at, I had let me share with you some. I'll just take once. I'll share just one slide and I'll talk about it a bit. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay, can you all see my screen? Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So see my, when I studied, as a student of journalism and mass media, that was the time when, and I distinctly remember, we were just at threshold when the hot press was getting replaced by the cold press. That's when Manorama Yearbook actually published a long or its annual coverage on multimedia. So multimedia publication happened. The satellite televisions were coming in. Asian Age, and then we moved into the dot-com era. Subsequently the business process outsourcing, e-commerce, and slowly towards metaverse and AI. Now what we are talking about over the years, what I've felt is, uh, if I am to teach or guide or give some kind of a suggestion to a mass media or aspiring mass media student, my view would be not to look just within the industry like a newspaper publication that or in print media, as Dr. Sandeep Mupadi mentioned. It is almost done with, but not specifically to any media organization, but cross industry. And when I say cross industry, I believe that communication is all pervasive. It is like water, it is like any utility. So, if we can guide or if we can inspire the students to think on broader perspectives, ideate and cross fertilize their ideas, think across the subjects, try to interlink, try to correlate things, it would be helpful for the students to actually find their way into various organizations. In my journey, when I started as a print journalist, probably the first generation technology journalist in India, writing for one of the most popular magazines in late 90s. And I had the privilege of covering things like the open source revolution, the Linux talk. Then came Microsoft, Bill Gates, and all the then the India internet world with the dot coms. So I did a good amount of coverage, and I had a good exposure to the tech industry. Further to that, I moved into technical communication, writing about products and projects and all that. As I got into the tech industry, I felt that there is much more that we can do. I cannot just sit within the corporate communication department. If I step in to the core business of software services delivery, every day in and out in the client conversations through which the services vendors are actually earning their dollars, the best communications approaches will certainly help them to yield the right revenue. Project management, business analysis, governance that happens at every level. Everywhere there is a need for specialist communicators or people who know the nuances of structured communication. So that's where there are roles or there are possibilities, and it actually span not just IT industry. Again, IT industry is across, like it's like utility. It serves healthcare, it serves defense, it serves government, it serves retail industry, and so on. I mean, right now I'm since last 4.5 years in Australia. I have been working with various government organizations delivering digital or technology solutions on behalf of my organization. And I believe what I have observed in my last 4.5 years is a lot of focus goes into what exactly is being communicated from the government and from its partners or the services vendors. Recently, I came across a very, very interesting session by one of the departments of the government where they invited everyone and they shared the digital transformation journey that they were going with and the kind of success that they had. They invited some of the partners. It was open to public. So that's one way to look at how we can encourage the students to go beyond what is being taught or what is being defined in the course curriculum. That would be there, and there will be a lot of efforts done from the faculty and the universities, the UGCs. There are very, very well established institutions that would take care of that. On this slide, as as I got the guide, and these are the areas through which I need to route my conversation. My other thought was, as a print journalist or as a television journalist, we are all driven by the TRPs or advertising, value of our content. So there is a question on how much of monetization can my message get. So if I am to I have to proceed or progress as a communicator in any role in any organization. I need to understand what is the value that my message is carrying for. The next is entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship. I listened to one of our distinguished panelists about talking about TikTok. When it happened, obviously it was a entertainment, few minutes or few seconds of entertainment, compressed dose of entertainment. But slowly it moved into a platform where every organization has started, its own TikTok channel. Even news organizations have their own TikTok channels. Can a future media student create something like that? In Australia, the biggest is, there is BHP Billiton, $100 billion or whatever it is today. I have not checked the share value, but that's the old economy, big mining company. Compared to that, there is Canva. Two young kids, a couple actually has built a platform very easily. It's a very easy or relatable concept. You just put some templates, people will consume, download those templates, edit it, and start publishing creative visuals online, and that has a market capitalization of 60 plus $billion. So as communication students, given that all of us are now exposed to various aspects of technology which was not available earlier, today we have everything at the disposal, on our smartphone. Can we think through and can we keep on messaging the young minds? Can we encourage them to think beyond the obvious, beyond the defined courses, beyond the predefined structure? That would be helpful. The next thing is, obviously, if we align the technology part with the course curriculum. There is talk about data, there is talk about platforms, workflows, automations, use of AI. Then we have actually gone from talking about LLMs in the last 2 years. Now there is there is a much more focus about not the large language models, but the smaller language models or the private language models. Then there is the concept of media ops, and obviously social media, it evolves as its own. My view is, rather than being a consumer or getting influenced by the evolution or the advancements that are being done by these outfits or organizations, can we or can our students be actually setting the directions, because we are encouraging them to do so. uh, I also, as I mentioned earlier, cross industry assimilation, cross fertilization of skill sets. The students can get into any industry today, at any level of any. They can create their own role. In my journey, there have been many roles which were first of a kind. Um, yes, that's how things run in private sector. Of course, then the multicultural part that one of our panelists was talking about. Yes, I did extensively work in Africa, was part of the Airtel Mobile Money Initiative versus the Safaricom's M-Pesa. I was part of the prehistoric version, rather, I would say, of OTT, which I did in India for Bharti Airtel, where we actually went to a cinema hall and we fitted a server, captured the screen viewing data, and formulated a solution accordingly. So these things can be worked out. All that we need to do is to fire the ambitions, aspirations of the current generations, encourage them to think beyond the obvious. With that, I would end my point of view, sir. And I would still continue to learn. I'm sure I must have made a lot of mistakes as I spoke, but that's how kids behave.
Uh, Thank you, Priyadarshan. Priyadarshi, for that insights. You have spoken from the experience of being an alumni to a leading industry practitioner, and true to your definition, you have given us a very fluid perspective of how the curriculum and teaching can really benefit from the dynamics of changes in industry and other sectors. With that, we move on. It is, as I failed to mention in the beginning, it is not necessarily only a panel of academicians. It brings in communication workers, industry practitioners, and others. We have the next presenter, Miss Rehana Razak. She has a background in media science, and she says that she believes in leveraging media to address women's health issues. And she has a master's in media and maternal health. And she is concerned by the gaps, particularly in women's health care. And to make an impact, she is committed to using media innovatively rather than entering mainstream media. So, Rehana, you bring a different and a new perspective. Over to you for your presentation and intervention. Welcome, Rehana.
Thank you so much. Just allow me a moment to share my screen. I hope my screen is visible to all. Perfect. Great. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm honored to be present amongst uh, the experienced professors and researchers in the space of media. My name is Rehana Razak, and I serve as the senior executive member at ICE, a social enterprise dedicated to advancing women's health. Like the speakers before and the ones who might be presenting after, I do not hold a direct experience in the field of media. However, I took a leap of faith to enter a new stream to understand the profound impact media can have in transforming lives. Now, as we all know, media is actually a tool for communication, right? And it can be used as a platform to share information and to inspire lives. Now, media can be looked at as different forms. It can be looked at as movies, as podcasts, music, magazines, newspaper, and so on. Now, media acts as a bridge that connects stories to actions, data to empathy, local issues to global platforms. Now, when we look at it as women's health, it can be used to humanize statistics, elevate marginalized voices, and create a systematic change. Though I had a background in media science, I took a leap of faith to venture into a new path that can create a lasting impact, and that's how I entered women's health. And today I'm just going to talk about my journey and the different aspects in which I used media to create a difference. For instance, we created we created a non-dialogue self-explanatory animated video that was used to train healthcare workers in developing and underdeveloped nations. Now, the notion of the company is to provide affordable healthcare solutions to underserved women, and the use of media allowed it to amplify its efforts globally. Now, this animated video was able to train over 20,000 healthcare workers, and the end result of the training was magical and a novel experience for them compared to their regular traditional mode of training. In another instance, we created a book that talks about menstrual health for young girls aged 8 to 13. Now, we had to do something different in order to capture the attention of an 8-year-old so that she can read the book and have an understanding about the topic. And thus, we went ahead and used bold and bright colors and created characters from scratch, which the young reader can resonate with. Not just this, Media was also used in terms of capturing videos of stories, journey about the company, and also the impact it had left on people using the products or having any other issues. Also used it as part of product packaging, photography, magazines, newsletters, stationery, and much more. Now, I believe that media is not just a tool for communication, but it is a powerful agent for change. Now, media acts as a very important role in transforming lives, in providing and sharing useful information, and also creating a platform to amplify voices. Now, when we immediately think of media, we think of music or movies. And evidence suggests that when we combine music and movies, it can create an important aspect to change lives and behaviors and attitudes towards a particular issue. Now, when we look at media, it can create an important ripple effect that can provide a change and that can last a creating impact. For instance, just last week, there was a video which was created as a musical video in Nigeria to talk about destigmatization of menstrual health. And I believe that was a powerful notion that was taken up to create a change in this space. Like Mr. Tripathi rightly mentioned, I think there is a need for cross industry and to think out of the box as to where media could be used to create a lasting impact. And I feel really thankful that I was able to venture into this path and use the media and the education that I had to create a lasting impact into a lot of women and girls globally. I'm really excited to be here and share my thoughts. Thank you so much for having given me this opportunity, and I look forward to listening to all the other panelists now. Thank you so much.
Uh, Thank you very much, Rehana, for that perspective, particularly on health, and also bringing the notion of change agent and how communication as a tool can be used and probably can be applied in various sectors. Now I call upon Athenio Oteno Karen from Kenya to offer her perspective on the issue or a related area. Thank you, Otenio, and welcome to this panel. You need to unmute.
Please confirm that you can hear me.
Are you there?
Yes, we can hear
Karen,
you.
you can hear
We
me?
can hear you. We can hear you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, and speakers before me. Um, and thank you, Berhampur University, for having me. Badita Tadia, we met many years ago at a college in the Netherlands. I just want to load the previous speakers from ICA, Mr. Michel, Mr. Smith, Mr. Hannah, Mr. Piadashi. He also spoke so much about diversification. And to speak about government communication, that's what I'm mentioning right now in the experience with Safaricom and M-Pesa, an innovation that took the world by storm and something that Kenya is really proud of. I am from Kenya. Allow me to just introduce myself a little bit. I am from Kenya. Sorry, I
Uh,
can't see my screen. I guess I
do-
got.
are you? I
I was
think,
trying to share a screen.
Karen, I think there is
Yes.
a bandwidth problem. It is okay if you got
Okay.
off your video
Let me put
and
my
focus
video
on
off.
your
Yeah,
presentation,
absolutely.
please.
Fantastic. So I'm a journalist, correspondent with VPRO based in Netherlands. I'm a media trainer. I'm an adjunct lecturer. I'm a media capability consultant. And besides that, I'm now also a public communications professional here in Kenya. I guide government communications for the county governments. One of the, Kenya is organized in a two-tier government system. So we have the national government, and then we have the county governments. So those two levels, and I lead media in one of the levels, public communications specifically. So basically, I'm here to give you the Kenyan perspective. So Kenya has a very rich history of media training in the region. One of the reasons has been political stability, which has contributed to the success of media training in Kenya. So I had prepared a slide, but I guess I don't know, it will be a challenge with the bandwidth. So we do have programs, journalism and mass communication programs offered at universities and colleges. Roughly, we have about 12 universities offering journalism and media training, and about 26 colleges that offer diplomas in journalism and media training and diversified disciplines in that sector. So these programs typically will cover issues around media ethics, reporting, writing, broadcasting, research, technical skills, radio and TV production, new media technologies, among others. So allow me to talk about the curriculum. So the universities have their own examination mechanisms and academic policies. However, the colleges, on the other hand, are regulated by something we call TVETA, Curriculum Development and Assessment Certification Council. So, of course, like most institutions around the world, regulating the curriculum has been a challenge. Allow me to talk about the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication, and I am an alumnus of this institution. It is a premier mass communication and journalism school. It was established in 1961, just 2 years shy of Kenya's independence. And then we also have the University of Nairobi. University of Nairobi offers a school of has a school of journalism, and it was started in the early 70s. So it has been offering postgraduate studies as well. So KMC for a long time was the only media training school in the region that focused solely on media training and allied technology. So it has five schools. The film school, which has camera operation, sound design, video production, and graphics and animation. And then there is a School of Information Training that offers a diploma in journalism, diploma in broadcast journalism, diploma in advertising and public relations. Then there's a production training, which solely focuses on production for radio and TV, and then engineering training, where we have telecommunications, electronics, media technology, and then finally the postgraduate training and research that has PGD in film studies and PGD in mass communication. So I'll talk about the bilateral relations, especially with the countries like Germany and the UK. One, Germany supported the establishment of the Kenya's Film School. And then we have had exchange programs with the universities abroad, where we have scholarships for practitioners as well. Um, then Kenyan professionals are found all over the world in media houses. They could BBC, DW, VOA, CNN, China World Network, and most of these are alumni of the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. Um, the research trends so far are skewed around traditional media training, journalism, print, broadcast. And unlike the trend that is really a dire need to delve into support fatigue, like photojournalism, we talk about photography, which is a big thing right now, and post production, AI, which is a big thing as well, and influence progressive journalism. So the gaps, I would say, right now, that the media schools and training institutions are facing are limited resources. And here we are talking about funding for equipment, funding for facilities, funding for research, and then the outdated curriculum. KMC, for example, reviews its curriculum every 5 years. This is across all the five schools. So 5 years is a very long time, especially in this era where technology just keeps changing and more. The landscape keeps changing very very fast. In the industry as well, there are certain challenges. There's financial sustainability, thereby making media less viable. It's been a big challenge for most media organizations in the country, and they're really, really struggling. So most of them are shutting down as we speak, unfortunately. So, of course, there is also the digital disruption. Most of the media houses are unable to adapt, even as we are having changes in the digital landscape. Then we have political interference, which is a problem across most African nations, and then ethics and professionalism. These are the challenges that the media industry is facing at the moment. And I think there's a lot of areas that you can still improve on. I had previous speakers talking about, you know, the issue of diversification and just being able to morph and change with the times. I think the curriculum, in my opinion, should be changed. I mean, at least reviewed every 2 years, so that it reflects the changing industry, media industry, and the landscape. That's the that's all I had to share today. I mean, I'm still here, and let's stay connected. I'll share my contact, and let's keep engaging. And I would really love to join the ICA. I've already been checking you out. Thank you.
Uh, thank you. Thank you, Karen, for that perspective and overview of the Kenya situation. Incidentally, Kenya and India have one thing in common. Both their national institutes of mass communication were set up within months of the period in 1965, basically oriented towards training the information officers of the respective countries. Now they have established their own identity. Thank you very much for that. Now I call upon Dr. Sudhanshu Dahal from Nepal. He is expert in information and communication technology, particularly its role and importance for societal development. He has a doctorate which focuses on the same area, and his area of studies are in South Asia. And he has been a visiting professor, researcher across Asia and Europe. Uh, he looks at digital media literacy, open data, etc. And he is also known to have established the strategic communication project for European Union in Nepal. Uh, he also claims his background as media ethnographer, and thereby he brings a wide-ranging experience of both Nepal as well as regional as well as global. Over to you, Dr. Sudhanshu, for your perspective and comments and suggestions. Thank you.
Yes, Thank you very much, Professor Sanjay, and good morning to you all. Uh, I'm from the neighborhood from Nepal, and it's very my pleasure for being invited to celebrate the Golden Jubilee of Perampur University. The original planning was I would have been physically there in person, but things didn't allow me to do so because of the engagement at home. So I'm Sudhamsu Dahal, and I come from Kathmandu University. I'm a professor there of media studies, and I'll be talking about the trends of the mass communication and how we're taking it here. And it's very interesting to be here in the AGs within the ICA. And although Nepal we are not we would not have any chapters or any regional hubs here yet. I think this could be a food for thought for us to like venture into, maybe try to nest ourselves within the bigger India chapter, or let's explore how it unfolds in the future. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think I'll use the slide, but I'll try to be very brief. Okay. Is it viewable now?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, thank you very much. So, the thing that I'm supposed to talk this morning would be a broader in its ideas, but in Nepal we are also trying to narrow it down into our own understanding of how it unfolds within us. And to begin with, actually Nepal should also be celebrating its 50th years in teaching journalism and mass communication. We started a very first of a departmental level course, not from my university, from the biggest university in Nepal called Tribhuvan University in 1976. So I think it's just 1.5 years where we'll also be celebrating that. And my university has been new in the university, so we're just 33 years old. We just celebrated that last Monday, the 33 years of our establishment. And my department is still newer with just 20 years of establishment. But nevertheless, we are trying to enter into this field as soon as we can. Maybe kind of jump into, but with a very cautious move into teaching and learning on these aspects. So the agenda for mass communication, how you frame it, mass communication, journalism, research, in a broader sense, or in its own deviations at the communication studies, media studies. So it would be to look into the two aspect, I think, which is very important today, especially the way the technology, especially the information and communication technology, has been revolutionized the sector, and also allowed us to explore many different aspects. Its evolution from digital to from traditional to digital platform, and also its importance in shaping the opinion and influencing behaviors. Because at times, even in Nepal, where we fall behind many of these economic indicators to be comparably within the other countries, but if you look at the access to information, actually the access to information and communication technologies through the use of mobile phone and mobile data, it's massive. It's almost at par with the 100% of the population. And we have been doing some studies, taking on the government data and overlaying it with the population increase in Nepal over the last 10 years. We have found that if you go to the bottom of the pyramid, the access to the data is more. That means maybe the poorer section of the society are spending a good amount of their disposable income in buying the data for many different purposes, including obviously for the entertainment, as to be engaged in the very popular, like either messaging or video sharing platforms, as well as to create something, or maybe try to establish their own business from whatever indigenous offerings they have, to offer it through those patterns, looking it into a kind of entering into a easy access virtual market. And continuing with that, I think what would be the key emerging fields of mass communication research globally, and vis-a-vis what we are attempting to do here in Nepal. would could be, like, put it into these five perspectives of digital and social media studies, and obviously the larger issue of health communication, then media and artificial intelligence. I think we've just been here heard a lot about how what has been the role of AI from the very esteemed panelist in this morning's presentation as well, and then obviously about the environmental communication, and most of all, it's a very specific to this region, although also it has a big potential to study about the cultural representation and diversity. And these global movements, global social movements, you can say, on digital space, hashtag movements, especially Me Too or the climate actions, also has its own, not just a repercussions, but very meaningful engagement within the local context. I think this gives us an ample avenue where we new or the future, or even the current digital, the mass communication or the media studies research could, engage into. And the health communication, the post, as we're living in the post-COVID scenario, and as we often talk about, the problem with the misinformation, and or even of a very kind of a silent aspect of malinformation, or because of the information disorder, the polarization that has been inflicted into different societies. The health communication and looking it from the from the digital media space would be very interesting aspect. And then obviously the whole gamut of artificial intelligence and media, looking at the job replacement to creating new opportunities, and trying to even fact check using that would be another area. And then environmental communication, and this coming from Nepal, a very small mountainous country, where our life depends on how much snow we get on top of the mountains. And if you not get that, then not only the worries but the consequences that brings to the hardship in our life definitely puts us into the crossroad, how we would like to see the media's role or the communications role in communicating these aspects. And about this cultural and cultural representation and diversity, uh, there have been studies there, about the representation of different communities by the big media conglomerates, and also the I can call it as a big media fanfare. And talking from the Nepal, would also be a little bit concerned about how this being represented from our own in our own neighborhood. Like, for example, the big business of Bollywood, how it represents us, and how, along with with its own northeast population, it could be a matter of very interesting study, and not only interesting study, or to make kind of whole social area, the social whole society of South Asia understand each other from these aspects. And there have been the real world examples of emerging trends that these platforms or the digital space brought into, which needs to be addressed, doing a very nuanced, understanding through media research. So, for example, I can share an information about the TikTok and political activism in Nepal. Although the TikTok, as we all know, started, and even the parent company which owns it, it's called ByteDance. But this is dancing in throughout our life, so Nepal over a year banned the platform for citing very different awkward region from the government, and even there was a court case to lift the ban. And but the government just pushed it through, and then it created its own mechanism, because people were using it despite the governmental ban, because there's a way you can easily do it. And then they just lifted the ban a month back, and then we're back on TikTok again. And this will also give us a very good, opportunities, how we study these platforms and its effect on the lives. Okay, similarly on the Netflix, and also the Facebook's role in misinformation spreading, we also have our own small experience in the last by-election, where a parachute candidate won by a huge vote in a very remote communities, where using these platforms. And the power of collaboration is another aspect, I think, which will bring in to the research agenda of sociology, psychology, and political science. And these are the tools that we all know. I don't have to narrate a lot to this esteem, or panel, and then the audience which is listening to us. But nevertheless, I'll just go to what could be the future ahead, like what could be looking ahead, what should we be looking ahead. I think two aspects, as I started with the two aspects from the very beginning, the two aspects would be the future directions. I think prioritizing the ideas of inclusivity, interdisciplinary research, and ethical frameworks, this has become a prime focus. And staying adaptable in the rapid changing media environment would be another one. I think with the time limitation, I will stop it here and would be staying here to listen to more. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
You have brought in very, what I say, Nashid, you want to say something?
I think
Nashid?
I think I'm done because we have a limited time. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It has been wonderful engaging this morning with this esteemed audience and the panel, of course.
Nashid, do you want to say something?
No, no,
All
I
right.
was just applauding. I was
Thank you,
just applauding.
Sudhanshu, for bringing in the status and the current range of questions you have in mass communication research in Nepal. India, particularly, has drawn many lessons from the Nepalese approach, for example, to community radio. In fact, the advocacy and policy issues in community radio is drawn heavily from the Nepalese experience in community radio, where I think you had a more formal approach to community radio, much ahead of the Indian context. Part of our efforts, Sudhanshu and colleagues, that Noshir in passing mentioned, is that the ICA India chapter is just not an organization only for events and conferences. It also intends to carry forward short term research programs for young scholars, middle scholars. We intend to conduct workshops in academic publishing and also bring together the larger group of media researchers from across the world where we could debate issues and concerns in methodology. This has nothing to do with imposing one view or the other, but recognizing that the contextual differences that we have probably requires a different approach, but also requires a certain degree of academic rigor and discipline. And that probably will be one of the objectives of ICA India chapter in collaboration with the right thinking people across the world, including collaborations with your country and many other countries in the region. Now, I call upon the last but not the least speaker, Dr. Tamil Selvi. She is the Associate Dean of Research at the Bayan College in Oman. She has been teaching media studies since 2004, and her particular interests are in media literacy, gender, and media. She has authored many books and also edited key publications. She's a freelance writer, and digital marketing is one of her applied areas of interest. She is a Pakshala trainer and has trained many students and social organizations to debunk fake news. So, something that came up in other presentations also. She has received the Scripps Howard Fund from ICFG for the project Disarming Disinformation and Block Funding for the Ministry of Higher Education, Oman. Over to you, Tamil Selvi, for your views, perspectives, and comments on the global issues of media and communication education. Thank you, Tamil Selvi, for joining us.
Good morning, good evening, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to everyone present here or all over the globe. First of all, my sincere apologies for not making it in person because I was so excited about this conference and I booked my tickets very early And I was so excited to meet everyone there, but unfortunately, due to some circumstances, I couldn't make it up. Sincere thanks to Dr. Bandita for considering me for to be a panelist for this grand conference. I really, really, really miss being there, and I'll try to make it as short as possible, considering the time zones of people in this virtual space, especially Dr. Noshir, because I think he's well ahead in time for than all of us. So quickly getting back to the topic, I would like to discuss the media scenario in Oman. Being in the country, teaching media, democracy, and all this for 20 years, going and teaching in another country where it is a kingdom rule, I found the difference, very vast. And I really, when I wanted to talk about the media scenario in Oman, I really did not know what exactly to speak, because unlike our country, unlike in India and other democratic countries, media there is closely monitored, I would say regulated, and whatever we, not just media, it's even the social media accounts of expatriates of even their own country members are closely monitored. So I decided to talk to the Minister of Higher Education, sorry, the Minister of Information and Broadcasting. Luckily, I spoke to her, and I asked the questions which was there in my mind. I asked her to explain the media scenario in Oman, and she said she loves India, she respects India, she respects the place where civilization was born, but they don't approve of the idea of what media, the portrayal of different crime and maybe other aspects of media, because they feel what we consider as freedom of expression is, according to them, freedom of destruction. And she cited from the Holy Quran that do not attempt to know the entire truth, because when you try to know the entire truth, you will not be able to accept it. So what they believe is they want to make the country very safe for the people. They want to focus only on development. And as I mean, I also went through the newspapers and the social media posts of authorized channels. And I understood that they speak mostly about sustainable development, about how the living can be enhanced, how what are the projects that are brought into the country, what are they trying to adapt from different countries. Only positive, everything is done in a positive angle. And when I asked her, is it not is it not suppressing the minorities? Is it not trying to suppress their ideas or voicing out for them? For that, she asked me a question: who are the minorities? Who do you think are the minorities? So I said, probably in India, Muslims are a minority because Hindus are a majority. And she said, my dear, the entire world, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, we're all majorities. It's only the rich who are the minorities, and the entire global media is working only for that minority, trying to keep their ideologies alive. And by reporting crime, by reporting sexual assault and all that, we only try to feed crazy ideas to sociopaths, psychopaths who are roaming around in the society. And so she says it is better not to talk about crime or not to have so much of emphasis about crime in media. So when I asked her, do you think that we have to remain silent about not telling what's happening to the society? Don't you think this is a way of creating awareness? She said, awareness doesn't mean that you have to keep talking repeatedly about the sexual assault that the person has undergone. The ministry, the ROP, which is Royal Oman Police, they are aware of the crime that's happening, and they know how to keep it under control. It's not necessary that the entire world must know what has happened to a girl, what has happened to a child, or what has happened to a person, and keep replaying it, repeatedly forecasting it, telecasting it in the in social media and other types of media. And she also says she's calling out to her friends, that is to the other Gulf regions, to stop reporting even about, not completely stop reporting, to minimize reporting even about war, because I feel that the more you talk about problems, the more and more it resonates and more it magnifies. Instead, focus on positivity, focus on development, and make the country more safe for people. And that's what actually they believe in. So interestingly, in this scenario, in this period, I got to I got the ICFJ project for disarming disinformation from ICFJ, and the project was given to me saying that I have to educate at least 60 people in Oman about fake news and disinformation. So when I asked, it's very easy for me to approach to my own students to give them the training and my colleagues as well. When I told them to come for the workshop, they were like, "Really? Is fake news even present in Oman?" I said, "Yeah, it is present. You have to just if you listen to me, you will know where you will find fake news." Then she said, my colleagues were saying, "No, it's actually no. We Our media is regulated by the ministry, and we know that it's not going to affect us much. So why do we even listen to this lecture?" Is what I was told. Then slowly I had to convince them to come and join my lecture for at least 2 hours. And then after listening to me, they were convinced, yes, there is fake news, and the Ministry of the Ministry of Information and Broadcast has nothing to do with that. Even beyond their control, fake news does exist and fake news does travel across the Gulf region. So when I told them, they were very interested, and now we are starting to starting to create awareness by a media literacy club in the college, and we are also expanding it to other regions of Oman, and we're also trying to have sessions for the autistic children and also for the hearing impaired, how that might affect how fake news and maybe digital media literacy as such will be helpful for those people. So this is it. And so what they basically feel is in Oman and all the Gulf region, they feel regulating media is important, and they do agree that in the past 10 years, media was not much under control of the ministry. So they started giving news as and how they like. And they felt that the results of it was not very good. So a journalist writes something, basically they all feel that journalists, when they take up the career, suddenly they become patriots and they want to write something about their country, and I want to write something, and they say, I want to talk about this issue because I'm a journalist, I have the rights to talk about this. And they do so, and they find a solution for that, but they in turn they fail to understand the other problems that this issue might have created. You might have solved one problem, but it might have led to another problem. And slowly, Gulf region, they all decided, no, this is not going to work. We are going to report. We will stop reporting all the negativity and focus only on the positive aspects of media. And I would love to talk more, but considering the time constraint, I wish to stop here and love to listen to the rest of the sessions. I hope I've given some insights about what's happening actually in the Gulf region, which was actually a surprising thing for me. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's great to be part of the panel, and it was lovely listening to everybody here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tamil Chalvi, for bringing in country-specific perspective, but also highlighting the importance of recognizing of how each country deals with communication and media. As teachers of communication, we had this dilemma, particularly when we were teaching the erstwhile four theories of the press, and we realized how complex and diverse each one of our countries are, and how difficult it is to talk in terms of certain universals. Thank you for bringing in this perspective. Uh, we have had a very, what should I say, broad spectrum session this morning, ranging from the global and way forward perspective, particularly bringing in the ICA perspective and also the way ahead for ICA India chapter. We have had a pan region, as in South Asian perspective, touching upon issues of academic productivity and also the issue of regulation and accreditation. We have had media sector specifics, industry perspectives. We have had views from Thailand, and we have discussed or addressed, and each panelist has brought in a different dimension to the scope of discussion that really has enriched the objectives that we had in planning for this session. Unfortunately, given the virtual nature of our interaction today, We may not be able to have a conversation or discussion, but I'm sure that each one of you appreciates the fact that some kind of a learning perspective has come as a consequence of this session. And I'll be requesting Bandita to probably put through a summative document of some of the important things that we have addressed, and we will try and put it up on the website of the department. And if there are any specific questions the group that is attending virtually, we will definitely record those questions and ensure that these questions reach our panelists for their responses. And on behalf of the ICA India chapter, as well as the Department of Berhampur via Bandita, I thank each one of you for joining us this morning. We are closing in on our next session, and many of the panelists have already joined. And on that particular note, I thank each one of you, and on your behalf, once again, reiterate our felicitations to the Department of Berhampur for its glorious journey of 50 years and onwards. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we will be in touch soon as possible. Thank you. Thank you, Nashir. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy. Thank you, BP, for organizing this.
Thank you very much.
From Santa Cruz, California. And she's Anasana Pandey, again Professor in same university.